Good day, everybody, and welcome to MARKETECH Mondays, a show that features industry leaders who will share about their career journey to inspire the world of marketing. This is an initiative of Blogapalooza in partnership with MARKETECH APAC. Our guest for our pilot episode is a regionally recognized marketing professional and public speaker with 17 years of experience driving some of the world's most beloved brands across diverse industries. This includes Samsung, Huawei, Unilever, and Mondelez. He also spent a significant portion of his career as a strategist and business leader for McCann World Group Philippines, the country's largest marketing communications agency. Today, he is the concurrent marketing director for Max's Restaurant and head of corporate communications for Max's Group Incorporated, where he continues to build both market effectiveness and creative excellence through work that works. Ladies, gentlemen, and everyone in between, let us all welcome Mr. Mark Joya. Hello, Mark.
Buddy.
Hi, hello,
Hi,
Mark.
good day. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me on
Of
your pilot
course.
episode.
Thank you so much, Mark. We really felt that you were the best person to be part of this pilot with all your accomplishments and your experience. I'm sure that our audience will learn so much from you at this episode. No? But Mark, I know that a lot of our audience right now, our viewers, our listeners, are very curious. How did Mark De Oya started in marketing? What was your first job? Is it even in line with marketing?
Yes, I started my career 17 years ago in a tiny company that you may have heard of called
Hmm.
Unilever. No?
Oh,
Uh,
very
s-
tiny.
yes, yes, very humble beginnings. No?
Yes,
Uh, I had the deep privilege of being able to join this company, and for those in the industry, you would know that Unilever would have generated a reputation for itself as being one of the true marketing universities of the
yes.
world, right up there with the Nestle's and Coca-Colas and
Mm-hmm.
Pepsi's of the world. Yeah, so
Right.
it was a deep privilege to have started my career there. And what I told myself, right at the start, when it comes to the foundations of
Mm-hmm.
marketing, when
Mm-hmm.
we talk about things like equity
Mm-hmm.
development, portfolio management,
Mm-hmm.
integrated marketing communications,
Yeah.
there's no better place to start than at Unilever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
It
and
gives
I
you
would
that
like to say,
exposure. It gives you that
absolutely,
exposure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You
absolutely. In
you were
terms
saying?
of,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sorry, probably
Oh.
going to have to redo this. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. I think what Unilever started off what Unilever started me off with was what I would think is a proper understanding of what it really means to be marketing, which is it's a very multidisciplinary thing. And
Mm-hmm.
when a lot of people start off fresh out of college in the marketing industry,
Yeah.
what's really visible to them would be the sexy side of things,
Yes. Yes.
advertising development,
The
PR
glamorous
events.
side. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I think it's very holistic actually when you think about it. There's a lot of back end infrastructure that consumers don't see in
Mm-hmm.
the outside world. Nobody in the consumer world will probably see an equity development strategy. They're
Yeah.
not going to see supply chain and P&L
Right.
optimization, things like
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Mm-hmm.
so I said, this is a great place to start with my foundations. But I
Right.
said, My ambition was to be a marketing director by the time that I turn 35 years old.
Right.
And frankly, guys from my generation, we're from the generation where generally you don't become a director or a department head until you're 40
40s,
years old.
yeah. I think we're the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
same generation, Mark. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, yeah. So I said the way that I was going to set up the rest of my career,
Mhm,
is I wanted to go deep and hands-on across all of the different disciplines,
mhm.
the sub-disciplines of marketing. So I curated a journey for myself
Yeah.
that would allow me to, dive deep
Right.
and get into all of the disciplines that I wanted to, and that sort of defined how I set up my career path. Yeah. I spent a couple of years in McCann. I
Mhm.
jumped
Yep.
into the advertising industry,
Yep.
which is it's not a very common move. I have a lot of peers who would have perhaps moved outwards from the agency world into the
The
client side.
client side, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, so I took the opposite tack. I
Hmm.
spent a couple of years in McCann working hands-on on campaign development. Working for one of
Ooh.
the largest beverage brands in the world.
Yes.
Working on a whole lot of other
Hmm.
different
Hmm.
campaigns across all sorts of different
Right.
industries. Yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
and the companies that followed gave me the opportunity to go hands on in these different fields. Yeah,
Yep.
Mondelez allowed me to work deeply on innovation management.
Hmm.
I jumped into consumer electronics, a different industry
Wow.
than what I had come from.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, to work on retail activation, marketing
Hmm.
communications.
Hmm.
I had another stint in McCann separately for high level strategic development.
Yep.
Figure out
Yep.
how all of the nuts and bolts work together.
Yes.
And
Hmm.
ultimately, it's this sort of journey that I think took me to where I am. I will
Hmm.
admit I can be very impatient when it comes to self development,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
yeah, and
Hmm.
that was the path that I deliberately took. And
Right. Right.
I'm proud to
Hmm.
say that by the time I turned 35, I did achieve my goal, and that's where I am today. Ace.
Very nice, very nice. What a very young achiever that we have here. And Mark, you were mentioning a while ago about campaigns. I'm sure that you've launched a lot of campaigns, and I'm interested to know what are the most memorable slash remarkable campaigns that you've had in your career so far.
I probably address that with bookends. No, I'll talk about something
Okay.
at the start of my career,
Okay.
and something that's a lot more recent. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I started my career off at Unilever. I was handling Ladies' Choice mayonnaise
Ladies'
brand.
choice. Mm-hmm.
You may have heard of it. No.
Yes. Yes.
Um, yeah, and the first campaign that I got to work on was with this brilliant man.
Uh
Today,
huh.
he's a Hall of Famer for the Creative Guild of the
Okay.
Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
He's a man named Raul Castro. No,
Mm-hmm.
Raul Castro. Uh, with Raul, there were two
Mm-hmm.
sides to my learning experience with him. On the one hand, of course, was the importance of insight-driven communications. No, and this was for a commercial. It came out. My goodness, it must have been 2003, 2004.
Uh huh. Uh huh.
Ancient. I
What
can't
was this
even find.
commercial? Yeah. What is
Yeah,
this?
yeah, yeah. It was a commercial for Ladies' Choice
Uh-huh.
called "Isipin Mo na lang" for the sandwich spreads
Oh, I
line.
remember this. I remember this. Isipin mo na
And
lang, ham yan.
absolutely,
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah. Yeah, yeah. I recall. Yeah, that was one of I think, the most remarkable campaigns of Ladies' Choice. I still remember Ladies' Choice because of that.
Absolutely, and I take great pride, well, on the craft side,
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
copy structure, the way it was designed to have such a great narrative and yet still be so memorable. This was
Yeah.
before the age of YouTube and viral memes. I can't
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
find a high resolution copy on YouTube these days. No, but
Yeah.
for those who might not be familiar, it's a little boy.
I
Going one
recall.
on
Yeah.
one, yeah, with his
Yeah.
barkada in the schoolyard, and they're comparing baon.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and the resolution of the ad is this line: "Isipin mo na lang, ham yan." Okay,
Yes.
and in the pre-viral age, now the one thing that will stand out to me is whenever I would get to interface with consumers off the street, or I would
Mm-hmm.
randomly meet at events, they would be able to play the ad back to me verbatim. No? And I thought, wow, how many times
Yes.
would you have listened to the ad to get that? No, but this taught me a lot about how insight makes
Mm-hmm.
ads magnetic, and insight
Mm-hmm.
makes them memorable. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So before memes and YouTube came to life, this is how I started my career. No, beautiful
Mm-hmm.
craft, but I will always remember the magnetism and the insight-driven nature of it. Yeah. So that's the
Yep.
first thing that I did in my career. The one of the more recent things, as I
Mm-hmm.
handle today the Max's restaurant brand, which, by the way, is turning 75 years old this
Yes,
October.
amazing. Max's. I love Max's. My little cousin, my baby cousin, we had her christening in a Max's restaurant. And Max's has this Ninong Max program.
Ninong ko si Max, yes,
Yes, Ninong
absolutely.
Kasi Max, yeah, where my cousin will always get a Max's chicken every birthday and Christmas.
Yeah, yeah,
What's
yeah, yeah. No,
amazing? That's
we are
amazing. I love that
we're,
program very much. Yeah. Uh-huh.
yeah, we're proud of programs like that. No, it's
Yeah.
not necessarily communications driven,
Yeah.
but it's a fantastic way to be able to literally build customer life cycle management.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Mm-hmm.
if we can politely say hello in the first year of our life, I suspect our chances of retaining you for the next 70, 80 years exponentially goes up. Yeah. So
Yes.
Maxis is such a it's such a heritage brand. No,
Mm-hmm.
as you
Yeah.
point out, Ace, I suspect many of the listeners out there, you probably have some sort of core memory at Maxis, maybe attending a binyag, maybe a
Yeah.
wedding reception, a birthday
Yep.
party, so on and so forth.
Yep.
But if we were to be very frank, if
Mm-hmm.
you measure the sexiness of a brand by how
Mm-hmm.
young and hip it is.
Mm-hmm.
Maxis doesn't play that game. Okay,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and
Mm-hmm.
we've had a lot of partners come to us with proposals. No,
Yeah.
how do we youthify Maxis? How do
Mm-hmm.
we hipsterize Maxis? No,
Yeah. Yeah.
I've seen all sorts of mock-ups. I've seen all sorts of communications proposals. But we said the job of Maxis, it's not to hipsterify itself. No,
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
one thing that we are proud of is when you walk into any Maxis, you will probably see more multi-generational tables than
Yes.
you would any
Yes.
other restaurant. No,
I agree. Yep.
literally, andyan si lolo,
Yep.
andyan si daddy, and andyan si baby. Yeah.
Baby. Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Agree. Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
we said one thing that is unique about
Mm-hmm.
Maxis is it's the one place where all generations of families can come together. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So over the last 2 to 3 years, no, one of the real flagship campaigns that Maxis has done
Mm-hmm.
now was this wonderful film trilogy, which celebrates just one very simple premise, which is
Mm-hmm.
every kind of family, every
Mm-hmm.
day to the max. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a three-parter. It's a three-parter.
Mm-hmm.
Not about the
Mm-hmm.
hipsterization of Maxis, but really celebrating it as a universal, multi-generational
Yep.
sort of
Yep.
destination. Yeah.
Correct.
And
Correct.
I would ask you guys to look up three specific films on YouTube or Facebook. Uh,
Now it's in
First,
YouTube.
yes, yes.
Yes.
Now we have high resolution copies
Yes.
online. Yeah. The first one was an award-winning film called End Alienation. No,
Mm-hmm.
it's a family of aliens who comes to the Philippines, no, of all
Okay.
places, and
Okay.
they are persecuted, they are discriminated, people
Mm-hmm.
throwing bombs at
Mm-hmm.
them and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, the one place where they are able to find welcome and refuge is in
Is
Maxis. Yeah,
Maxis. Yeah.
that's
Which year was this, Mark? Which year was this released?
this one I believe was in 2018.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's recent. Okay, got it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And
Yeah.
the follow up to that, while we're
Mm-hmm.
celebrating this whole story of coming together,
Mm-hmm.
it's the follow up was a piece called New Year is for
New Year.
Resolutions, which
Mm-hmm.
obviously came out during New Year.
New Year's
No?
Day.
And
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yes, going back to insight driven pieces, the
Yeah.
reason I love this film so much
Mm-hmm.
is because I suspect when the internet came along, people thought this was the one tool that would unite the world together, because literally anyone from any corner of the planet can come together, connect,
Yeah.
converse. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 But obviously, with everything, there's a dark side, and I think we might
Mm.
say that probably because of the internet, we've probably created the most divisive, fractured society of all. What do I mean? There's so much cliquishness going on.
Yep.
There's so much,
Agree.
all of these different social groups just hating on each other, bashing each other,
Agree.
flaming
The
each other.
cancel culture.
Yes, the cancel
Yeah.
culture, absolutely. And we said, the world is beautiful because we're able to celebrate the uniqueness. But truly, there are wonderful opportunities to celebrate things that bring us together. No, so we
Right.
said
Right.
simply, as we enter the new year,
Mm-hmm.
this is the right time to find resolution. Not your
Right.
traditional definition of resolutions, as in I resolve to do this, but to bring to a close
Yeah,
everything
that's
that divides
nice.
us.
Yes, yes, yes. That's
Yes.
really insight driven. Yep, yep.
Yes,
Mhm.
yeah. And the third piece of this campaign, something that came out late in 2019, was this
Mhm.
wonderful animated film. No? You might have seen that.
Mhm.
It's the story of how fried chicken was invented, and it involves, a young dashing chicken who sacrificed his life to the sun to be able to bring the gift of fried chicken to the world. No? And it's a
Uh-huh.
story again celebrating togetherness, inclusivity. No, a lot of
Mhm.
brands out there are going to talk about narrow slices of togetherness.
Mhm.
Barkada
Mhm.
bonding, family
Yep,
bonding.
yep,
Our point of view is culture as a whole, society
yep.
as a whole deserves to come together, and that's pretty much what I love the most about the
Mhm.
work coming out of Maxis the last few years.
Right, right, right. And hearing your story, I hear a lot of insights of, you know, I feel like you got there because there are people that really guided you through this. You know what I mean? Were there any specific mentors that you had in this industry, and how were they able to be instrumental in the things that you've achieved so far?
Absolutely, absolutely. There,
Mhm.
there are two leaders in particular
Mhm, yeah,
who have passed on their wisdom to me, and it's something I would love to be able to pass on to
yes, of
everyone else.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first one was my mentor in Macan. No? He's a
Mm-hmm,
gentleman named Gino Borromeo.
mm-hmm,
Uh, he was the chief strategy officer of Macan at the time.
mm-hmm.
And what he shared with me was a very interesting point of view. A lot of people um, don't feel that they have the capacity to operate in the ad industry simply
Mm-hmm,
because,
mm-hmm.
obviously in the creative industry, your number one currency is creativity. And
Yeah.
to a lot of people, creativity is something defined as artsiness,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
having an affinity for craft, etc.
Yep, yep.
What I learned from Gino that at the core of it, creativity is
Mm-hmm.
not equated to being artistic. No?
Yes. Mm-hmm,
Creativity at its core is a problem-solving exercise. No? The
mm-hmm.
ability to find and identify problems and dissect them in a way that you can solve them in a creative fashion. No,
Yep.
uh, so this was a huge revelation for me, no? Because
Mm-hmm.
of course you want to create great craft, you
Yep.
want to win the creative awards, but the job of advertising and the job of
Mm-hmm,
marketing at its core, and this is a
mm-hmm.
classical definition, uh, the job of marketing is to solve the problems of
Yes.
humanity
Totally agree.
profitably.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, of course.
Profitably, yes. We must remember that. Very important point. Profitably. Yeah.
Let's be frank, no,
I
it's
know.
not a
Yeah.
hobby, no. The profit
Yeah.
is what makes effort sustainable. Yeah.
Sustainable.
So
Yep.
this is the first thing that I learned from Mr. Borromeo,
For me. Yep.
and I've taken it throughout my whole career. No,
Mm-hmm.
before anyone can come up with any sort of action, before
Mm-hmm.
anyone can come up with an idea,
Mm-hmm.
the first thing that you have to identify is a legitimate problem to solve. Yeah.
Right.
Uh,
Yep.
in the case of Maxis, I talked about cultural divisiveness. But if you look
Mm-hmm.
at the really great brands of the world, Dove,
Mm.
for example,
Yep.
as a classical example, it's all about solving the problem of superficial beauty. Yeah.
Ah,
Uh,
yes, yes,
Yes,
yes.
Nike is all about breaking the barriers of the human spirit. No, and these are brands
Mm-hmm,
I admire. No, and if
mm-hmm.
you think about it, every great brand out there has positioned itself to be a problem-solving brand. Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
that's the first one. That's what I learned from Mr. Borromeo. I
Yeah.
will take this lesson throughout my whole career. The second is a guy named Ariel Fermin,
Mm-hmm.
who coincidentally today
Mm-hmm.
is my group chief operating officer at Maxis Group. But
Ooh.
incidentally, he was also my first ever marketing director when I started my career 17 years ago. I'm
Yeah.
a big believer in connecting the dots,
Yeah, yeah,
coming
yeah,
full
yeah.
circle. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Now Ariel has such an interesting career, no? Because he has shown in all sorts of fields, marketing, sales, general management, etc. But at the core of it, his training, he was a chemical engineer actually,
Mm.
no? And
Mm, mm,
I don't know how many great marketers out there you could say were trained as a chemical engineer, no?
uh-huh.
And the way that his mind works is something
Mm,
that
mm,
I
mm.
truly take this to heart. Now, I was talking earlier about marketing as being a problem solving exercise first
Yep,
and foremost.
yep.
Yeah, but let's be honest. A lot of the problems that you face in the world, they're massive, they're overwhelming. Your
I
first
know.
reaction as a human being is, my goodness, how do I even begin to address that?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, Mr. Fermin has the most analytical mind I've ever met, no? And his
Mm-hmm.
point of view is there is nothing out there. There is no problem out there that is too complex to be broken down into a fundamental equation of x, y, and z. Yeah. So
Mm.
every problem
That's
can be
good
broken down
insight.
into that equation.
Yeah.
No? And once you've
Mm-hmm.
identified X, once you've
Mm-hmm.
identified Y and Z,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
then the
Mm-hmm.
equation becomes automatic. Yeah.
Yeah, you
Uh,
know what they say, no? When you want to place an elephant inside a refrigerator, you have to cut the
eat.
elephant in pieces and put them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
One bite
Yeah.
at a time. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes. So, taking the two great learnings of these two great men, and I hope that someday I will be as awesome as them in my own career. No,
Mm-hmm.
uh, my own definition as a marketer, it's about being able to find great problems,
Yeah.
being able to build meaningful brands to solve these,
Mm-hmm.
and to be able to do so in a way that makes sense from a business point of view. No,
Mm-hmm.
and a very wise man, much wiser than me, phrased it beautifully. The whole
Mm-hmm.
philosophy can be summed into, again, this is a mathematical equation:
Mm-hmm.
math plus meaning
Mm-hmm.
equals magic.
I love
So
that. Math plus meaning equals magic. That's amazing. That's amazing. I'm going to put that as my Facebook status. So, Mark, I'm young relatively, and I'm also looking for mentors like you've had. For people like us who are still, starting in this industry, what advice would you give in terms of, say, looking for mentors, finding which mentors would work for us, or which mentors would we be compatible, quote unquote, with?
Well, I think when we talk about the concept of mentorship, fundamentally, I believe that it's always a two-way street,
Yeah.
where the end in mind is mutual growth. No,
Mm-mm-mm.
um, one thing that will always stick with me is was my first ever boss. I'll give him a shout out. His name is Rudy Ramin. And
Mm-mm.
he was my first ever leader when I was in Unilever.
Yeah.
And the first ever conversation that I had with him,
Yeah.
Mr. Ramin told me,
Mhm.
Mark, my job is to get you promoted. I said, wow, really? No, that was such a refreshing thing because I had never expected that sort of language from a leader. Uh, and it was clear up front that
Mhm.
his personal measure of success, to measure himself as a great leader, was on how great he could make the people around him.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, so I've gotten the opportunity to work with all sorts of bosses. No, I've had mentors who felt that their job was personal fame building for themselves. I respect that. That is their agenda. I've
Mm-hmm.
had other mentors who were more collaborative. So what I have tried to define, and this might work for different people. If we're talking about mutual growth, then there has to be a certain level of both humility and self-awareness on both sides. No, uh, it is the job of mentors to be as humble as their students. I sincerely
Mm-hmm.
believe that
Mm-hmm.
because in my case, no, the largest team that I ever had to manage was goodness, almost 30 people, almost
Yeah.
30 people.
Okay.
And, that's a fair sized department, yeah. But I
Mm-hmm.
would
Yeah.
like to say, as much as I try to teach them what I know about the
Mm-hmm.
field of marketing, I would like to say I've learned just as much from them.
Mm-hmm.
And my natural inclination, I'm a
Mm-hmm.
prideful guy. I will admit that I have my ego, but the ideas that these guys put on the table,
Yeah.
astounds me every day. I genuinely learn so much. So I,
Mm-hmm.
I look when I look for mentorship, it really goes back to this: humility, self-awareness, the ability to desire mutual growth for both parties. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. And value exchange, I believe that's really, mutually beneficial. I believe, as everything in life, it has to be a fair value exchange. And
absolutely.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You've mentioned also about, people that you've handled, people that you've managed. I am also looking forward to hearing more about, your leadership role. What were your learnings? What is the experience as a whole being in a leadership role? And of course,
Yeah.
handling different people of different temperaments. How was it like for you? Yeah.
Yeah. I think when you try to imagine the construct of leadership in your mind, you're sort of imagining there's some sort of power distance gap between the
Mm-hmm.
leader and his reports. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I was talking earlier about uh, how this gap might exist,
Yeah.
but the learning does not just flow top down. No, there's a mutual
Yeah.
cycle, a mutual exchange between the two. Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
one of the core things I learned from another great mentor of mine,
Mm-hmm.
Jim Fuentebella, one of
Mm-hmm.
the directors at Maxis Group, and
Mm-hmm.
really, I would say the originator of all of those wonderful pieces that I talked about earlier. No, lives by three core values. No,
Mm-hmm.
which is honesty, common sense, and trust. Yeah, honesty, common
Honesty,
sense,
common sense, and
trust.
trust. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a challenge. It's challenging when you have exactly that power distance gap. You have to try a little bit harder to build in that common sense. You have to try a little bit harder to be able to foster the honesty, because
Yeah,
honestly, um, nobody likes to let their leader down. Yeah, so obviously there would be
of course.
there's a lot of upward fear, no, but I do like to say that I welcome hearing about failure. I welcome hearing about challenges
Mm-hmm.
because ultimately our job is to solve these problems
Mm-hmm.
together, no?
Mm-hmm.
And uh, I have heard anecdotes. I've never had to experience these myself. Leaders who will just throw the problem back and say that's not my
Uh,
problem. Come back to me with a solution.
uh-huh.
I like to say, I trust you to find the solution, but I believe that if you're stuck, we can find it together. Does it
Mm-hmm.
take Does it take more laway? Does it take more energy? Absolutely, no. But the
Uh,
returns are very worthwhile.
yeah, yeah. I also apply that same, sort of like a philosophy when managing the team that I manage right now, because, I always tell them we don't know what will work, but we need to try it out. And if it fails, then we change it, we improve.
Yeah,
If it doesn't work, then we change it. If it works, then we just retain it, improve it. And I think, we have to give that also that safe space for the team to learn from their mistakes and make up for or improve it. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. That's something that I love from
mhm,
Google. No, the philosophy of Google as an organization.
mhm,
I'm sure Ace, you might have noticed. No, many years ago, if you go onto Google.com or Gmail,
mhm,
etc., you'll see
mhm.
a tiny little label at the bottom that says,
Uh,
beta mode, beta mode. Uh,
yeah.
Eventually, you start to
Mhm.
wonder how many years are these guys going to always be in beta until
Uh-huh,
I realized actually that is a very conscious and deliberate philosophy. Now, a lot of people put pressure on themselves to get everything perfect on the first
on the first
shot. No,
try. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm,
but there's
mhm,
something wonderful about the courage and confidence to always allow yourself to be in beta. Put
oo.
something in the market, get it out there, no, and with the high level of real-time data and
Mhm,
analytics that we have today, it's
mhm.
very easy to pull in feedback, no, get
Yeah.
that feedback loop going, iterate, tinker,
Yep.
and get something in a continuous state of improvement, no. So
Mhm.
I believe in this when it comes to um, marketing output, the work,
Yeah.
and it's something I believe in as well as a people philosophy. Never
Mhm.
be afraid to always be in beta.
Yes, always be in learning mode. That's what I tell my
Absolutely,
team. We're always
absolutely.
learners and we will always improve. And Mark, in your 17 years in this career, I'm sure you've had plenty of also failures and successes. I mean, um, maybe we could talk about the failures if that's fine with you. Maybe we could talk about the failures, challenges, things that you've learned from these. Yeah, maybe cite an instance, maybe tell a story,
There are so many, you know. This
I'm
is
sure, yeah.
this is a challenging
Mhm.
question because throughout my career, no, I will frankly admit I have made every single mistake possible, no, from big
Mhm.
to small. I have chosen wrong strategies, no,
Of course, yeah. Mhm.
I've chosen wrong positionings,
Mhm.
I've built the wrong mix, I've priced things wrongly, the go to market strategy was
Yeah.
wrong.
Mhm.
And there are many things. I guess in Mondelez, no, in Mondelez, there was a very challenged brand that was given to me, no.
Mhm.
When I said, my job here, it was a powerful brand, but for some particular reason, it couldn't make headway in a very
Mhm.
specific category.
Mhm. Mhm.
My job was to turn that around, and I
Okay.
invested, months and months of my brain cells and my energy trying to crack that, trying to figure out
Why? Yeah,
what can
right.
we get wrong. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
But again, my marketing director at the time, this lady called Pam Takay, still at Mondelez, regional marketing director now. Um, of course, I felt that high pressure to succeed, no? But she was the
Yeah.
first person who went and said, failure is okay because in every failure we learn. No,
Mhm.
I'll connect this to the great MMA fighter, Mr. Conor McGregor. Yeah,
I knew you would put some wrestling in there. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah. He says he never loses. Either he wins or he
or he
learns.
learns.
No?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yes. So in my career, I've had quite a few learning streaks, if I may use
Mhm.
that language.
Right.
But I don't dwell. I don't dwell. I have the humility to accept when I have made the wrong decision.
Yeah.
Um, and of course, I always tell my team, feelings are feelings, and as human beings, it's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel bad, but ultimately, we have to ask ourselves, no, if we had to put on a grateful mindset, what did we
Mhm.
learn today, and what will we do better tomorrow? Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I have too many failures to talk about. Is no, so
Mhm.
many, but I always pick myself up. No, uh,
Yep.
never lose, always learn.
Yep. Yep. I love those points. Gratefulness and the ability to move on and pick up yourself and just take that as a lesson and improve the next time. Uh, and yeah, yeah, when I hear you talking about your story, your experiences, I feel like there are plenty of philosophies, personal mantras that you really stand by. Um, you mentioned something about math plus, what was that again? Meaning equals
Yes,
magic.
equals magic.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah. Is this like is this sort of like your life slogan, or like your, the way that you would live your life? I mean, what are your personal mantras, your beliefs,
Yeah.
your philosophies?
Yeah. 3 years back, I had the opportunity to lead campaign and brand development for Yellow Cab Pizza, which
Yeah,
is
yeah.
part of Max's group. No,
Mm-hmm,
the work that came out, I didn't mean it to be, but it was very autobiographical. Okay,
okay.
what do I mean by this? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people would talk about Yellow Cab Pizza. It's turning 20 years old next year. No, they'll talk about it as New York style pizza. No,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but my first week on the brand, I was asking myself, what does it truly mean to be a New York
New York
style
style.
pizza?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. What is New York style? Okay,
yeah.
so I was sort of trying to figure out, if we had to tell the story of New York, we can't do this just by celebrating, the tourist hotspots, Statue of Liberty, Empire State
Yeah.
Building, all that different stuff. No, I think one of the biggest realizations was, New York is probably the hunger capital of the world. What do I mean by this? People say that you have no chance of making it in New York City if you don't have the hunger to succeed. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I will rightfully say, there. If you look at the previous generation, my generation, the things that we valued were things like,
Mm-hmm.
where did you go to school? Who do you know? How
Yeah.
much money have you got? No, but if
Mm-hmm.
you look at today's generation, the youth
Mm-hmm.
generation,
Yep.
their idols have changed. No, our
Yeah.
generation, we wanted to climb the corporate ladder, no, be a VP of this, director of
Agree.
that. No, today's
Agree.
generation, um, their idols are the men who build things, right?
Yeah.
When you talk about Mark Zuckerberg, when you talk
Mm-hmm.
about Elon Musk,
Mm-hmm.
these guys who started from nothing and built it up.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, wow, if this is the mantra of today's generation, and I'll be frank, no,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I was ever the smartest guy in school,
Same.
but
Same.
right, yeah, yeah, yeah. But
Mm-hmm.
we celebrate people who have the grit and the hunger and the hustle uh, to keep grinding and
Mm-hmm.
learning and rising above. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to Yellow Cab,
Mm-hmm.
the tagline that came out from all of this work,
Mm-hmm.
was one very simple philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we believe that hunger is the most unstoppable force in the universe, then the line that summed everything up was, Yellow Cab, no stopping the hungry. No? And that's my philosophy. No, in the words of the great philosopher Dwayne the Rock Johnson. No, always be the hungriest man in the room.
Yeah, yeah. And just want to share, no, every time I would find someone who will join our team, it's always there's sort of like an internal conversation happening within me. Is this the hunger that I'm looking for? Gutom ba siya? You know what I mean? Gutom ba siya? And it's stronger when you say it in Filipino Gutom ba siya? Andun ba yung gutom niya? And I totally get that when you say the hunger always has to be there, and it should never
Yeah,
die. It should
absolutely.
never
Yeah.
die.
One
Mm-hmm.
of my other leaders, when I was asking for advice on, how do I build my team, how do I build my plantilla, um,
Mm-hmm.
and his advice to me, ask one simple question from everyone that you interview. You know, uh, Sabi niya, I have to ask, ano ang sugat mo sa buhay? No? And
Mm-hmm.
uh, the sort of conflict, the sort of challenges that a person has had to overcome in life, I
Mm-hmm.
think is a predictive measure of
Yeah.
how far they will go in the future. Yeah, so
Mm-hmm.
we all have our wounds. These are not things to be ashamed of. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
these wounds that
Mm-hmm.
will make us stronger.
Nako, ano nga ba ang sugat sa buhay ng isang Mark De Oya? Mark, ano ang sugat mo sa buhay?
Madami akong sugat sa buhay, no? No, I've it's I my upbringing was very different. Of course, I had the opportunity to go to one of the best schools in the Philippines. No, I've always had that privilege, but my family makeup was very different from everyone else. It was very unconventional.
Yeah.
Today, people don't bat an eyelash when you talk about blended families, broken
Mhm.
families, etc. No? But
Mhm. During
40
our
years
time.
ago,
Mhm. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that was very different. No, my dad passed on early, so I also had to have the sort of responsibility of taking on the fatherhood
Mhm.
role for my siblings. There are five of us in the family. Yeah.
Mhm.
So at a very young, yeah, at a very young age, no, I would like to think my adversity quotient was already challenged because
Mhm.
how do you act as a responsible father when you are 14 years old? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah. So that's why I respect people with these wounds. And when we look at the casting of teams that I've been a part of,
Mhm.
generally when you get into the marketing industry, uh, I would say 80% of the people you meet, we tend to come from homogenous backgrounds. No, we come
Yeah,
from business management
yeah.
courses,
The top
etc.
universities. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, you come from the number one university, Ateneo de
Yeah.
Manila, and the number two everyone
Yes.
else. Yeah.
Yes,
Um,
I
uh,
agree.
yeah, that's 80%, no? But some of the most
Uh,
interesting and the best marketers I've met, no? This lady that I met in Unilever, she used to be a chemist in R&D. No,
mm,
Mr. Fermin, who I talked about earlier, was a chemical
mhm.
engineer.
Yeah.
One of the best strategists I've met
Yeah.
is a surfer girl. No, another one might be literally a poet off the street na palaging nakachinelas. No,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
this 20% who have such an interesting point of view on life that I think makes marketing better.
Mhm. And I have to agree, no, because they're the people who are really there on the ground, experiencing things, seeing how things are like. It's different when you're sitting in the boardroom and really just thinking about things theoretically. It's different,
Yeah,
eh, you know?
I've met a lot of boardroom marketers. No,
Yes.
they're fantastic on PowerPoint. They're fantastic in the boardroom.
Mhm.
I'm not sure how connected they might be in the real world. And this is
Mhm.
not to say that I am as connected as I would like to be. I
Mhm.
could always be
Mhm.
better.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But they're always going to be boardroom marketers. And that one, may I just share an experience that I had when I was still starting in my career. No, I launched a very famous transport app here in the Philippines, and back then, we had a competitor, and what they did was they went to the garahe of the taxi and they brought sexy girls because they thought this was what the taxi drivers would want, no? But then I remember I was suggesting to management that time, the taxi drivers, they would want the bigas, the delata, they want something to bring home to their families, So that's what they brought to their garajes, and it doesn't take much, no. It just takes really seeing their experience. How are their lives like? How is their everyday like? What is their psyche? You know?
Absolutely, yes, yes. And I've been in a lot of organizations,
Mhm.
and I suspect a lot of people out there would be able to relate. Marketing as a function always seems to be at odds with sales and operations,
What are
because
your views on that, by the way? What are your views on that, on that perennial battle of marketing and sales?
yeah, I think it's from a human standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
when we talk about the salesmen of an organization, their KPI, frankly, is to
Yeah,
generate the revenue, yeah,
yeah, yeah.
and their attitude towards marketers, sitting in their
Cost
desks in their
center.
admin,
Uh,
we're a cost center, marketing
uh,
is a cost center. We
uh,
we probably have the highest variable cost in any
uh,
organization, yeah. Um, we're very conceptual, we're very abstract,
mm-hmm.
highfalutin, no?
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that happens if marketers continue to believe that marketing exists on PowerPoint alone, no? That if our job is to connect with consumers, and we like to talk about consumers in a conceptual fashion in our events,
Yes.
then we have to operate and exist with consumers. No? And similar to your earlier example, Ace, no? When I was working in consumer electronics, no? Of
Yeah.
course, I had the opportunity to dig around for best practices around the
Mhm.
world. And these guys in one of the markets, they were telling us, one of our best ever performing promotions, we gave 1 kilo of onions with every cell phone that we sold. And of course, if you're going to be an abstract, conceptual purist about it, you're going to say, why would I sell onions with my cell phone? No, but
Yeah.
going back to your example, if we're talking about marketing as being a problem solving exercise, then you have to have that real, very grounded understanding. What is the problem that we can solve? No? And then the
Yeah.
solution suggests itself.
Mm-hmm. Wow, grabe. That's 45 minutes so far of inspiration and so many quotable quotes. Maybe this is the point in our show that we will talk about, of course, the core of Blogapalooza, which is influencer marketing. Now, Mark, being in marketing, I wanted to know also, what is your, do you have, first and foremost, do you have any experience working with influencers? And as someone who's been in marketing for a very long time, you've seen also the evolution of the space. What are your thoughts on influencer marketing in general?
I absolutely love influencers. I
Mhm.
would say probably 90% of the stuff I have bought in my life over the last few years is because I saw someone post about it. So hats off to you guys. No, I'm such a sucker for your work. But I'll take a step back. I'll take a step back. No, I think with the way that marketing has evolved over the last few years,
Mhm.
consumers are dealing with more noise than they've
Mhm.
ever
Agree.
had to in their lives. Yeah, we don't have Philippine numbers, but someone in the US said that the average consumer probably has to deal with anywhere from 5 to 10,000 pieces of advertising per day.
Every day,
Per
yep,
day.
yep. Every day, yep.
Yes. Yeah, and that's crazy. This is the noisiest and most complex world that we have ever lived in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have numbers again, but I suspect that the advertising industry has created more pieces of pop culture than Hollywood and all the other movie industries all over the world. No? So, in a world of noise and in a world of complexity, for me, the job of influencers is single minded and clear. Yeah?
Mhm.
I believe that the job of influencers is to provide clarity and to make sense of all of this noise out there. Yeah. Um, and there are a lot of influencers who do a wonderful job at that. No, in the lifestyle verticals that I follow, I'm a big sneakerhead. No, so I love following these guys who
Mhm.
just have such a wonderful and unique point of view on sneakers. No, I
Mhm.
love tech. I love dogs. My pet Yorkie and my pet Pomeranian.
Yeah, yeah.
Very near and dear to me and my wife. No,
Mhm.
but there are just so many options out there. But I am thankful for the influencers out there. Uh, and it's depends on what platforms. No? I look at everything. I look at
Mhm.
everything.
Mhm.
I look at YouTube. I look at IG. I go to every single platform because I need an opinion. No? So this
Yep.
sort of reinforces to me. No? I'm looking for simplicity, clarity, and for someone to help me make sense of the world. No? And that's the
Mhm.
power that influencers have done to me. Are
Mhm.
there influencers who I think have not done a good job at that?
Mhm.
Absolutely. But I would say this is in the minority. These are people that it is so evident from the get-go that these are just paid statements. Perhaps they
Yep.
are not as in depth. There's a certain sense of authenticity. I hate the word authenticity. It's so
Authenticity is
gas-gas.
so overused. Yeah, yeah.
'Di ba? I mean, that was Laos in
Yeah,
2015, right? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. But
yeah.
but you fundamentally look for it because I'll always remember this one data point that I saw in a study many years ago. We asked today's youth if you could hang out with a brand for one day,
Hmm.
what brand would that be? No, and I thought that they would be choosing sportswear brands, I thought they would be choosing, snacks. I thought they would be choosing, fashion, all that different sort of stuff. No, the number one brand that they chose, if they could hang out with, was Google. Okay, why was
Wow.
it
And why
Google?
was that?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Why was it Google? Because in a world of dishonesty and noise, they said Google is the one organization that could always point them to the truth. Yeah, and
Mhm,
that's sort of the same space that I look for in influencers. Yeah,
mhm.
and I respect it highly. No, but of course, with great power comes great responsibility. No, and
Always, yeah.
I think everyone knows that over the last 2 3 years, no, the whole influencer industry has come under a lot of scrutiny, no,
Mm-hmm.
because for the 80% of authentic, honest, and truthful ones out there, you have those who have built their career based on bots, fake followers,
Mm-hmm.
salesmanship without soul, no, and rightly or wrongly, fairly or unfairly, no, that may be creating long-term distrust for the segment as a whole. No,
Yeah.
uh, yeah. So that's my point of view on influencers. Truly,
Mm-mm-mm.
the job is clear. The job is clear. Help
Mm-mm.
humanity cut through the noise. No? And the only way
Yeah.
they can do that is by keeping it real.
Yes. And as we say in Blogapalooza, it's hashtag elevate influence. Mark, we have come to the part of the show where we talk about your greatest success that people that you would want people to really remember you by. What is this
Hmm.
like greatest success? At least so far, at this point in your life, in your career also.
Yeah. Well, couple of things. No. The first one I don't want to dwell on too much because let's be honest, is in the marketing industry and the advertising industry,
Mhm.
there's a lot of self celebration, a lot of
Yep.
patting ourselves on the back. Yeah. So
Yep.
awards and recognitions are. They are not what drives
Mhm.
marketing professionals. But I am thankful for having been able to achieve my own sort of reputation in the industry.
Mhm.
More than the awards,
Mhm.
more than that. What I am proudest of is really the ability to um, be invited into a platform where I can pass on where what everything that I have learned. And I do this with a humility that you will easily find, 100 better marketers than me. But I've had the opportunity to learn from the best, and I think it's truly my job to pass it
Yep.
forward. Yeah? So that I'm deeply proud of that, which leads to the other thing.
Mhm.
When I was trying to establish myself as a leader, it was tough. It was tough because leadership is it's an outward oriented thing, and I'll be very honest, no, on the introversion extroversion scale. I am painfully, on the very extreme of being an introvert.
Mhm.
Dealing with people, it's something that will always be a challenge. Yeah, and it's
Mhm.
tough, no, because a lot of
It
people,
doesn't
again,
look like it though. I feel like you're so, you know what I mean? I mean, well, maybe. Mm.
no, thank you for that. I will say that a lot of people think that you have to be a natural extrovert to thrive and survive in the world of marketing simply because
Mhm.
it's such a front-facing function.
Mhm.
But again, I will draw inspiration from the great philosopher Dwayne the Rock Johnson. No, I think my whole presentation style, my whole conversation style from him. No, I learned confidence from that man. I consider him a very dear friend, even though he
Mhm.
probably has
Mhm.
no idea who I am. No? And it's this sort of confidence that I've always tried to build in the people that I manage. No, I like to think that out of the many people I've managed, um, I have made all of them highly piratable. I have made them very promotable. I've made them respected leaders. No? And of course,
Mhm.
a lot of this is dependent on their own greatness. But I do like to believe that even as a painfully self-aware introvert, I have been able to make that sort of difference in their lives.
Yeah, yeah. And that's really, that's really the mark of a great leader, no? When you also enrich the not just the careers, no, but the lives of the people that you lead. And Mark, I don't want to keep you long, but I really want to hear about, your advice for a lot of new souls that are trying out their career in the field of marketing. What would be your advice to the newbies?
Yeah, there are there's so much out there. I think if I was to drill on uh, well, two things. There are two things that I just want to
Mhm.
highlight the most. Yeah. Number one, I just want to reinforce what I said earlier. Never be ashamed of where you've come from. Never be ashamed of your roots. Okay. Because there is no such thing as disadvantage as long as you are hungry. Okay. So, point number one, always remember there is no stopping the hungry. Okay, that's the first thing. And the second thing, this is something that I tell my own teams over and over and over again. No? In a world of noise, in a world of clutter, in a world of complexity, the greatest gift that we have for humanity is the gift of clarity. No? So a lot of people out there, they try to be nice and clever and fluffy and artsy about things. The first thing that I will say is, as regards that, first be clear, then be clever. Yeah. Or if I could add just one last thing,
Yeah,
no?
of
If I
course,
could just
yes.
add one last thing, no? A lot of people might not feel that they are built for the marketing industry or the
Mm-hmm.
advertising industry because they
Mm-hmm.
don't think that they are creative enough. No?
Mm-hmm.
I will say creativity is important, but the one thing that enables that is curiosity. Okay, the
Right.
best marketers I've met are those who are also the most curious. These are the guys who live every day asking the question, why, bakit ganito, bakit ganyan, what can I
Mm-hmm.
do about it, no? So before anything else, before we talk about, that natural flair for creativity, first build in yourself that innate sense of curiosity. That's what will
Yep.
take you far.
Yep. And you know what they say, in everything that you do, magis lang always. Magis.
Magis, absolutely.
Magis tayo. Maraming salamat. Thank you very much, Mr. Mark Joya, for really joining us and sharing your insights, being very generous about your life and your experiences in Marketech Mondays. Thank you, and we will see you again next time. Maraming salamat at paalam!